There's a flat and arid plain that extends east from the banks of the Dead Sea before ascending about 4,000 feet to another plain. They're the plains of Moab. This is the setting for one of the greatest final speeches from one of the most influential leaders the world has ever seen, Moses. These plains act as a launch pad for God's people, Israel, from which they would go into the land that God had promised to give them after wandering in the wilderness for 40 years. And when Moses gives his final address to Israel from this location in the book of Deuteronomy, we read that he shares all the ordinances, all of the statutes and law with Israel, then implores them in Deuteronomy 4, carefully follow them. For this will show your wisdom and understanding in the eyes of the peoples of other nations, of the world in that context. When they hear about all these statutes, they will say, in their words, this great nation is indeed a wise and understanding people. A wise and understanding people. That's how the world will view them. This is a wisdom that cannot be found under the sun. It is true wisdom that comes from above. This is a wisdom displayed in the obedience of their God, Yahweh. For the pursuit of all other wisdom is Havel, says the teacher in Ecclesiastes. A chasing of the wind, a frustrating life of futility. We are looking at life through the lens of the teacher in Ecclesiastes over these weeks. We listened last week to the raw observations about the futility of life with the element of time. In the opening verses last week, we heard from Solomon. Everything is futile. This we should heed. We should listen to him. Why? Because he's qualified. Just ask him, he'll tell you. Now from verse 12, where we pick up, we're going to hear the word I. I applied. I have seen. I have amassed. I learned. So we're getting a very personal testimony here from someone who is basically saying, trust me. I know. I've been, I've seen, I've tasted, I've touched. It's futile. And after declaring in general terms at the beginning, everything is futile, the teacher now zeroes in on an area of life that we so often are confident that we're going to find satisfaction and meaning. And that is human wisdom. The wisdom of the world gives us confidence that if we could just find it, we'll be right. But first, his credentials, verse 12. I, the teacher, have been king over Israel in Jerusalem. The word teacher there is a translation of the title Kohelet. The Kohelet, it means a leader of an assembly. So he's teaching the masses. He's gathering people together and he's preaching wisdom. So this teacher, Colette, is an honourable and qualified man with the knowledge and experience to preach to the masses. Not only is he a teacher, he's king. Therefore, as king, this teacher has had every opportunity and every advantage that that office of kingship holds. He has access to books, records, wise counsel. He no doubt had every resource available to him, but not only that, he had the time. He had the time and the capacity to experiment in every pursuit of happiness and fulfillment. He's the king. But that's not all. He's no ordinary king, is he? This is none other than the King of Israel. You remember them. Everyone knows them. They are the nation under God that all nations around them look upon and say, according to Deuteronomy, this is a great nation that is indeed a wise and understanding people. God's own, God's beloved, the chosen ones. Furthermore, this accomplished man, this teacher, this king of Israel, resides in the holy city, the epicenter of Israel's wisdom. He rules over it, where the courts of justice and the colleges and assemblies were presided over by the wisest of priests, the wisest people in the wisest nation. So in no uncertain terms, we hear the teacher say, "Listen up, class. What I'm about to tell you comes from a really reliable and good source. Me. So we should listen. This is as wise as it gets, humanly speaking." Verse 13, I applied my mind to examine and explore through wisdom all that is done under heaven. God has given people this miserable task to keep them occupied. Solomon's assuring us that he's taken full advantage of his faculties and the fortunes he's been afforded in his role, a man in that position. He has fully applied himself in this pursuit of learning and experiencing all that life has to offer. Anything that could possibly be attained through study and experience and understood in any field, it's him. Whether that was philosophy and mathematics or merchandise and mechanics, he delved into the present age, into the past age, the laws, the customs, the policies of every nation. No matter how intricate, no matter what a close and enduring concentration an issue had, I held, I did it, I found out. He applied his mind to it, no matter how vast or deep. The thinking aloud, he meditated on it, he marinated in it. He was not put off by the vigorous journey of the acquisition of knowledge. This is not some guy who mocks education and wisdom because he fails to attain it. It's not beyond him. On the contrary, this is the one who went further in any conquest for all that can be known under the sun. This is the wisest man who ever lived. And that not only according to him, to God. You may recall Solomon came into leadership as a young king, and the Lord at one point approached him and said, Solomon, ask me, what should I give you? I'll just give you anything. What do you want? And he asked for wisdom and discernment. That impressed the Lord. Look at his response in 1 Kings. Now it pleased the Lord that Solomon had requested this, wisdom, discernment to lead his people. So God said to him, because you have requested this and did not ask for a long life or riches for yourself or the death of your enemies, but you asked for discernment for yourself to administer justice, I will therefore do what you have asked. I will give you a wise and understanding heart, so that there has never been anyone like you before, or never will again. God's words. The one who gives wisdom. Be confident. This teacher is the wisest we have. And what did he find? Verse 14. I have seen all things that are done under the sun and have found everything to be futile. A pursuit of the wind. What is crooked cannot be straightened. What is lacking cannot be counted. After all is said and done, my vast knowledge and findings, says the teacher, are totally unsatisfactory. The images of chasing the wind. Have you ever dropped anything in public like that you need, and it's a receipt or some kind of paperwork, maybe cash, and a gust of wind has gotten it and just picked it up and taken it a couple of steps? So you walk a couple of steps and you go to pick it up, and then a gust of wind goes further, and then it sort of blows this way and that, and then you start to go a bit quicker because you really need it and you think the wind's going to take this anywhere. So at a certain point you start flat out running after this thing to retrieve it, while certainly whoever's with you is laughing at you because it's hilarious. Your pursuit of this elusive item just causes people to see humor. You are chasing something in the wind. But what if that person was to stop pursuing that thing and just sensed the wind on their face and turned and looked up and knew that there was something blowing on them and began to pursue in all sorts of directions to and fro the invisible wind? What do you think that would look like? As someone who's been to LA over 300 times, I have seen more than a few crackheads chasing the wind. And it's sad. And it's pathetic. It's not the least bit funny to see people chase the wind. And friends, if we're relying on human wisdom, if we're relying on what we know, if we think we can think a pathway through life of discovery that's going to result in anything but a futile conclusion without God, if we think the sum of the parts of a life well lived, under the sun, estranged from God, are anything but a chasing of the wind, then it's we who have become sad and pathetic and anything but funny to watch, no matter how composed and respected by the world. Because the wisest man who ever lived, verse 15, discovered what is crooked cannot be straightened. What is lacking cannot be counted. And you know what is crooked that can't be straightened? us. Our nature is crooked. From start to finish, it's not going to be redeemed by human wisdom, self-development, understanding anything, education. Solomon couldn't reform his kingdom from the crooked nature with his wisdom, nor could he change himself by his learning. And how's it played out for us in 2026 in the information age? We might even have more than Solomon at our fingertips. We've come so far, haven't we? We've globalized, we've civilized and politicized correctly conduct to all walks of life in the name of tolerance and unity and justice and the pursuit of a global peace and stability because of that civilization and our enlightenment. If any so enlightened generation should be able to straighten out what is crooked in this world, it's us, surely. How are we tracking with that? Give us a rating out of 100, with minus 10 being the highest. What is crooked cannot be straightened with wisdom, with technology, with civilization. This alludes to a few verses earlier, which I intentionally skipped over. Verse 13. God has given people this miserable task to keep them occupied. Solomon says, I applied my mind to examine, to find out, to discover. I was gaining knowledge, and it's a task that God has given people. It's miserable, and it keeps us occupied. Note in that verse, the giver is God. God has given that task. He is the gift giver, not of peace, not of mercy, not of freedom or happiness, not here. God has given people, and the translation of people is the sons of Adam. God has given the sons of Adam a miserable task to keep us occupied. That is the discovery of knowledge. A task of pursuing wisdom. And the highest attainment through that task cannot change reality. The highest attainment of that pursuit of anyone's life cannot straighten out what's crooked. Why? Well, the answer is Adam's sin. Because of it, chapter 3, Genesis, God cursed Adam and his children and all of creation. In the judgment, we were given the miserable and elusive task of pursuing knowledge beyond us. Therefore, verse 15 again, B, what is lacking cannot be counted. At the extent of human learning, what is lacking in our understanding is infinitely deficient. It takes the grace of God to see that. It takes a divine gift of grace to humble ourselves to see that. Pray to become a fool for God. He uses such fools to shame the wise who pursue wisdom without him. The Cambridge astrophysicist Stephen Hawking, some of you will remember, he was contained to a wheelchair. He was considered one of the brightest minds, however. One of the brightest minds this world has ever seen. He famously said, "We are just an advanced breed of monkeys on a minor planet of a very average star. But we can understand the universe." God's word says nearly the opposite of that. While it does not claim the earth is the only planet with life, but it is the only planet we know of with life, it is the teeming with life focal point of God's creation. It's not minor, major. Significant enough for God to reveal himself to us in the most profound and miraculous way, like an incarnation into the flesh he created. The Bible also claims that humanity is the height of God's created order, his vice regents, the only ones created in his image, not monkeys. Yet, unlike Hawkins' conclusion, the Bible also says that we understand very little about how the universe works, actually, and can do almost nothing to change it. Who's right? My money's on God, by the way. Gamble responsibly. Verse 16, I said to myself, "See, I have amassed wisdom far beyond all those who were over Jerusalem before me, and my mind has thoroughly grasped wisdom and knowledge. I applied my mind to know wisdom and knowledge, madness and folly. I learned that this too is a pursuit of the wind." The best reiteration of Solomon's wisdom comes from 1 Kings 4, which I don't have up, but just hear this. God gave Solomon wisdom, very great insight and understanding, as vast as the sand on the seashore. Solomon's wisdom was greater than all the wisdom of all the people of the East, greater than all the wisdom of Egypt. He was wiser than anyone, wiser than Ethan the Ezrahite and Heman, Calcol, Dada, sons of Mahal. His reputation extended to all the surrounding nations. Solomon spoke 3,000 proverbs, and his songs numbered 1,005. He spoke about trees, from the cedar in Lebanon to the hyssop growing out of the wall. He also spoke about animals, birds, reptiles, and fish, emissaries of all peoples, sent by every king on earth who had heard of his wisdom, came to listen to Solomon's wisdom. He's got a lot of wisdom, and he's used it. And he concludes, it's all a chasing of the wind. Now look at verse 18, where he ends his pursuit or his consideration. He's pondering about where meaning of life may come from. He's now gone into human wisdom, and this is his conclusion. Verse 18, "For with much wisdom is much sorrow. As knowledge increases, grief increases." Wow. If wisdom and knowledge are not the answer to human fulfillment, but in the end a futile pursuit, then the deeper we delve into the discoveries the more disheartened we become. Because the closer we get to the conclusion is the closer we get to the revelation that it's futile. We might summarize that reality with the phrase, ignorance is bliss. It is. You ever seen an upset baby because they didn't know enough? Or what they had discovered had upset them to the point where they couldn't cope? They just couldn't sleep last night because they're so worried about what took place yesterday? Babies know nothing and live in bliss. Kids know a little more, but they have very few sorrows as a result. In our pursuit of wisdom and knowledge, we bust ourselves to get it, don't we? The application it takes to study. I mean, I'm not that academic. It really hurt me. And I love it. I love studying what I study, but I read everything 3 times to get half of it. It took a long time. I busted myself and do to study. I don't have the best memory for stuff I read, but I do forget it. So even after that pursuit, I come away with a little bit of what I've worked for. Most of what we acquire, actually, we never apply. How much of an education do you actually apply? Like in praxis, we have to go a lot further than what's going to help us go far. We work out through that pursuit that the more we know, the more we learn there is to learn. And then we're like, we don't have the days allocated for this. Like I thought I knew the Bible before I went to Bible college. And I had a look and went, oh my gosh, I know nothing. I'm never going to know anything. I can relate to Solomon. Daniel Tammet can relate to Solomon. He suffers Asperger's syndrome. It's a condition that's enabled his mind to achieve amazing things, actually. And in 2004, Daniel broke the European record for reciting pi. He couldn't even spell it correctly. It was P-I. Forgot the E. Pi, of course, is a mathematical constant representing the ratio of a circle's circumference to its diameter, apparently, approximately equal to 3.14159 ... It is an irrational number, meaning its infinite digits never repeat or terminate. Daniel got hold of this. He got hold of this number and committed a lot of it to memory. In fact, for 5 hours and 9 minutes, he recited 22,514 digits. 3.14 and the rest for the hours. Without error. Now, in his memoir, Born on a Blue Day, inside the extraordinary mind of an autistic savant, he recalls, and I quote, "I still remember vividly the experience I had as a teenager lying on the floor of my room staring up at the ceiling. I was trying to picture the universe in my head, to have a concrete understanding of what everything was. In my mind, I traveled to the edges of existence and I looked over them, wondering what I would find. In that instant, I felt really unwell. I could feel my heart beating hard inside me because for the first time, I had realized that thought and logic had limits, and it could only take a person so far. This realization frightened me, and it took me a long time to come to terms with it. In Ecclesiastes, have we not just witnessed the wisest man in the world lying on the floor, coming to the same conclusion? Unnerved by the frightening realization of the limits of human wisdom. And we might well conclude that it's that moment that is the doorway to divine wisdom, which is true. It's true wisdom. And it comes from above, not under the sun. Take that step today. Walk through that door. Become a fool. That's what Christianity is. It's coming to the end of yourself. You have no resource. You have no capacity, no faculty, no attribute that's going to help you ultimately, or me ultimately. We come to the end of ourself. We step through that door of divine wisdom. Paul says in Corinthians, let no one deceive himself. If anyone among you thinks he is wise in this age, let him become a fool, so that he can become wise. For the wisdom of this age, the wisdom of the world is foolishness with God, since it is written, he catches the wise in their craftiness. And again, the Lord knows that the reasonings of the wise are futile. Hevel. Christians are fools. Yet, he or she is no fool who abandons human pride and power and resource to find the secret and hidden wisdom of God in Christ crucified for sin. That's all we need to know. Amen.